Hello and welcome to my channel. This is the beginning of a series that I'm going to make on restoring my 1978 HZ One Tonner to its original glory. The reason I decided to start making videos on this is to help people out there looking for information and motivation to work on their car projects. I also figured that it would be good for me to get some tips and tricks from people watching these videos because I definitely do not have all the answers. A bit of history on this car. This was my dad's old work ute which he used to deliver bread back in the late 80s and 90s. My dad was the second owner of this tonner, and it had been sitting in our driveway for the past 20 or so years, slowly rusting and withering away. I decided a few years ago that I would try and restore it and started working on it last year in January. My dad built a Pantech on the tray of the tonner to carry bread in it. I had to cut this off, which was a slow and painful process, and after getting sunburnt a few days, I eventually got it done. By the end of it, there was so much rust on the floor, I reckon the tonner weighed about half of its original weight. We managed to get the old 253 fired up and got it to move around on its own power, but the rear brakes were shot, so we only had front brakes.
She's alive.
The neighbours aren't coming out and saying, thank God.
After we managed to get it moving around, I started dismantling it in my garage whenever I had time on the weekend. You can tell that the cab had been through a lot and looked worse than a block of Swiss cheese. I decided it wasn't able to be saved and went on the hunt for a half decent one that I found in Wagga. It was a HQ cab, which means that the hood lines don't line up perfectly, but I figured it would just need some bodywork and it would match the hood of the HZ. I didn't realize that the dash was also different from HQ to HZ, so I had to cut out my old dash support and weld it into the new cab. I finally got it all dismantled about 2 months ago, and I'm working on building it back to its original glory from the ground up. So I was just cleaning up the chassis and I found this crack here right where the spring goes. So apparently that's pretty common. You can see it's already been welded up a bit. Sort of the same on this side. I think it cracked here before somehow, and they've done some sort of repair, so I guess I'll just weld that back up, that crack. And yeah, good thing I found it before I painted it up, so yep. Painted it up. First coat. Applied it with a brush. Not the biggest fan of how it's looking. I think I will try a spray gun for the next coat or two. Yeah, this is just the KBS product. Rust seal. And then there's going to be a satin black top coat to go on top of this. I still got to flip it around, so I think I'm going to flip it around first and then clean up the underside, get a coat on that, brush it on, and then yeah, paint the whole thing fully.
just so I can sort of not have to fuck around with it too much. So just flipped it over. Gonna grind back the underside of the chassis now. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. And then I actually got an air spray gun because I don't like the way that the paint came, the paint came out when I brushed it. You can see some runs here. Not really going to see all this, but you know, I want it to look a bit decent, so yep, we'll get onto that. And yeah. So I've just fully stripped the bottom, paint stripping this wire wheel. I did as best as I could. Obviously there's some nooks and crannies that you can't really get to, but as long as you clean them up, new paint should stick to it. So gone over it with the rust blast as well. And yeah, so now it's ready for paint. Try out the spray gun. I've also masked the floor, so I don't get overspray on the floor. Might mask some of the walls too, just so I don't get overspray on really anything. Just did a coat of the KBS rust seal with the spray gun. Turned out pretty good. Not too shabby. So yeah, I'll wait for it to dry. And do a second coat on the bottom here. I didn't end up recording the rest of the painting, but I got the top coat on and I reckon it turned out pretty well. So I'm ready to clean up all these suspension bits and paint them. Just going to paint them black to match the chassis with some rattle can paint that I bought. I already took out all the bushings. I didn't film any of it because I just forgot to, and it was a pain in the ass. Little tip though, buy one of these kits off of eBay. That was like 80 bucks, and that made it a lot easier. Yeah, so I would do that because I hammered some of them out and that took fucking forever. I also went up near the Hunter Valley yesterday to purchase this. It is a diff out of a VZ Crewman, and it's, I believe, a 308:1 ratio LSD factory. It's got disc brakes, and I think it should fit pretty easily. It's a bit wider, but it's okay. And yeah, hopefully that's not hard to do. Yeah, I think it'd be good. A lot cheaper than customizing the HZ diff to have disc brakes. So yeah, just painted up all the front suspension bits. Turned out pretty good. It's a lot easier when you hang them up. Paint them all at once. Just use this Rust-Oleum paint here. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. And then top coated with this. Hopefully it turns out well. Does what it needs to do. And yeah, should be good. Thanks everyone for watching. Please be sure to like, comment and subscribe.